The man who forgot how to smile. The morning fog wrapped around the valley like a tired shawl, softening the sharp edges of Hassan's quiet world. His farm lay still, a patch of earth marked by discipline, routine, and silence. Chickens clucked with half-hearted energy. The cow lowed. The air was thick with dew and memory. Hassan moved like a man with half his soul missing. 2 years ago, cancer had taken his wife, Amina, the only woman he had ever loved. Since then, the house had grown quieter, the laughter had stopped echoing, and time had turned heavy. He lived by the clock, wake at dawn, tend the fields, eat alone, sleep to forget. The townsfolk called him the quiet one or the widower farmer. Few dared to speak of Amina in front of him. He carried her absence like a second skin. Today, like every Wednesday, Hassan traveled into town to buy supplies. He rode a donkey cart with slow rhythm, the road familiar but colorless. The town bustled in contrast, shopkeepers shouting, children chasing kites, and the distant whistle of a train approaching. He arrived at the station to buy sugar and oil from the nearby market, but something unusual caught his eye. A woman sat alone on a wooden bench near platform 2, dressed in a red bridal suit now smudged with dust. Her bangles dangled loosely over her wrists, and her coal-streaked eyes were red from crying. A small suitcase sat beside her. She looked like a broken ornament left behind after a forgotten celebration. Curiosity tugged at Hassan, though he rarely indulged it. As he passed by, she didn't lift her head, but her whisper carried across the space between them. He saw me and walked away. Hassan slowed, unsure if she was speaking to him or merely releasing the thought to the air. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. She finally looked up, her eyes swelling with shame and defiance. "My groom, Faisal." He saw me step off the train and left. Said I was too fat, too different from the photo. Then he vanished. Hassan blinked. It was not just the cruelty of the act, it was the ease with which she spoke it, like she had already replayed it in her mind 100 times. "She must have. I waited here since yesterday morning," she added. "No one came to fetch me. I don't even know if I should go back or anywhere." People passed her without a glance. No one asked if she needed water or food. No one cared that a woman in a wedding dress was sitting abandoned in the open. Something in Hassan stirred, a faint echo of the man he used to be. "Have you eaten?" he asked. She looked up with a mix of suspicion and surprise. "Not really. I brought some bread and dates. If you don't mind." She hesitated, then nodded. They sat on the edge of the platform, not close, not distant. He handed her half of his simple meal. She ate quietly, cautiously, the food shaking slightly in her hands. "What's your name?" he asked. "Zulekha." He nodded. "I'm Hassan." A train screamed past them, its wind catching her dupatta and sending it fluttering like a torn flag. Neither flinched. After a pause, she asked, "Why are you being kind to me?" "I don't know," he admitted honestly. "Maybe I remember what being forgotten feels like." Zulekha gave a hollow laugh. "Forgotten would be a kindness. I was discarded." The word hit him hard. Discarded. As if she were refuse. Not a woman. Not a bride. Not someone with a heart still pounding in her chest. Hassan stood slowly. "Will you be here tomorrow?" She gave a small shrug. "I suppose. Where else would I be? I'll bring warm tea next time." Then, without waiting for her answer, he walked away. Zulekha watched his retreating figure, unsure if she should be grateful or cautious. All she knew was that in the middle of a cruel, mocking world, someone had finally seen her and hadn't looked away. A question she never expected the next morning. Hassan returned to the station with a small flask of tea wrapped in cloth and 2 tin cups clinking in his satchel. He hadn't told himself why he was going, only that something about leaving her alone in the open felt like an unfinished sentence. Zulekha sat in the same spot, though her posture was different, less defeated. Her suitcase was now tucked beneath the bench, and her red bridal dress looked a bit less rumpled, as if she had attempted to reclaim some dignity. "You came back," she said as he approached, not smiling, but not frowning either. "I brought tea," he replied, setting the flask down beside her. "Hope it's still warm." They drank slowly, in quiet sips. Trains passed. Vendors shouted. No one interrupted them. How long do you plan to stay here? He asked finally. She sighed. I don't know. I have no one back home. The family who arranged the marriage was distant. I was supposed to be his burden now. Her voice sharpened. But I was too much. Too much, he echoed. She gestured to herself with a humorless smile. Too fat. Too real. Too everything, apparently. Hassan considered her words carefully. You think your size makes you less worthy? I don't, she said firmly. But people do. He nodded. People said my wife was too sickly to be loved. We proved them wrong. Zulekha looked at him differently then, not as a stranger who pitied her, but as someone who knew how cruelty wore familiar masks. What happened to her? She died, he said. 2 years ago. Cancer. She lowered her gaze. I'm sorry. She was kind, bright, and small in every way, he added. But the biggest part of my life. They sat for another long moment. Then Zulekha asked, Why are you helping me, Hassan? He didn't answer right away. He let the question settle between them like smoke. I think, he began, I'm tired of letting good people be left behind. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked the tears away before they could fall. I can't stay at the station forever, she said. But I have nowhere to go. Hassan hesitated. This moment felt heavy, as though it were shifting something inside both of them. My farm has a guest room. Clean. Quiet. If you need a roof for a night or two, it's there. Zulekha stiffened. You don't even know me. I didn't know the stranger who pulled me out of the river when I nearly drowned as a boy. But he saved my life anyway. She stayed at him. This world doesn't give things freely. Then maybe it's time someone did, he replied simply. Reluctantly, she stood, brushing off a dress and picking up a suitcase. Just for the night, she said, until I figure out what to do. They traveled back on his cart, the road winding through quiet farmland and scattered trees. Zulekha sat with her hands in her lap, fingers tightening every time someone passed by and stared. Hassan didn't speak. He knew dignity needed space. The farmhouse was humble, clay walls, a faded wooden door, and a lone lamp hanging from the porch. Inside, the guest room was clean but bare. Zulekha stood in the doorway, taking in the simplicity. It was the first time in days she'd been inside four walls. There's water in the copper pot, Hassan said, and a clean shawl on the hook. Thank you, she whispered, her voice softer than before. That evening, they ate lentils and roti in silence. She offered to wash the dishes. He let her. Later, Nani Bai, Hassan's elderly neighbor, came by with a basket of eggs. Her eyes flicked between the two, then widened with quiet interest. You brought a guest? She asked. Yes, Hassan said simply. Her name is Zulekha. Nani Bai smiled knowingly, then leaned closer to Hassan as Zulekha went inside. She's not shame, you know, she whispered. She's shelter. That night, Hassan lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling. His mind circled the same question again and again. What if this wasn't just pity? What if this was the beginning of something neither of them had expected? By dawn, the question turned into something larger, heavier, and strangely hopeful. A wedding without flowers. Zulekha stood at the well, pulling up a heavy bucket of water with steady hands. 3 days had passed since Hassan brought her to the farm, and though no promises had been exchanged, something unspoken had begun to take root between them, like a sapling reaching toward light, unsure if it would be welcomed or crushed. She had never known such silence could feel safe. Hey, the quiet wasn't cold, it was spacious. It let her breathe. Inside the farmhouse, Hassan was mending a cracked window pane. He glanced toward her through the open shutters, noting how she moved, firm, efficient, uncomplaining. His heart beat differently when she was near. Not louder, just steadier. That evening, over a meal of okra and rice, he placed his spoon down with care and said, Would you like to stay longer? Zulekha didn't lift her eyes. Out of kindness. No, he said. Out of choice. She let the silence stretch. People will talk. Let them. They already talk about my dead wife and my lonely fields. Let them have something new. Her lips curved faintly. What are you asking me, Hassan? He took a breath that felt heavier than any sack of wheat he'd ever lifted. Marry me. The words hung there, stark and unexpected. Zulekha stared at him as if he'd just recited poetry in a thunderstorm. You don't love me. Not yet, he admitted. But I respect you. I feel safe around you. And maybe love begins with safety. She leaned back. You haven't even touched my hand. Would you like me to? He asked gently. She blinked. No one's ever asked me that before. I do nothing you don't agree to. I'm not saving you. I'm asking you to stay. As my equal. Tez threatened, but she held them back. You'd marry the woman someone else left behind. I'd marry the woman I found. That's worth more. The next morning, they stood under a neem tree outside the village mosque. No flowers, no drums, just Nani Bai, an old imam, and two quiet witnesses who signed papers and spoke blessings. Zulekha wore a simple white scarf over her old bridal dress. Hassan wore the only pressed kurta he owned. Their eyes met once during the nikah, only once. But in that moment, the world seemed to tilt into place. Afterward, they walked home side by side, not touching, but moving in rhythm. The wind carried the scent of jasmine, wild and unnoticed. At the farmhouse, Hassan prepared tea while Zulekha changed into simpler clothes. She folded her bridal suit and placed it gently in a chest, not out of shame, but ceremony. Later that evening, villagers began to whisper. A few bold ones came by the edge of the farm, offering smiles laced with sarcasm. You didn't wait long to forget the dead, one said. She's bigger than the gate she walked through, another muttered. Zulekha heard them. So did Hassan. She turned away, but he walked straight to the edge of the field and faced them. I lost one woman to death. I won't lose another to your tongues, he said. You may think she's too big, but she has the strength to carry what none of you could, dignity and disgrace. They left in stunned silence. That night, Hassan found Zulekha staring at the fire, unmoving. I didn't want to bring you shame, she said. You brought me company, and I no longer eat alone. That's all I need. They didn't speak of love, but when his hand brushed hers as he passed her a plate, she didn't pull away. In her room, she opened the window and let the moonlight fall across the floor. Her suitcase, once a symbol of rejection, now sat unopened, not out of neglect, but because she no longer needed to be ready to leave. She was not a guest. She was someone's wife, the man who smiled again. The sun stretched lazily across the horizon, casting a golden hue over the ripened wheat fields. Zulekha stood near the chicken coop, gathering eggs in her japata, her bare feet dusted with earth. A soft breeze toyed with her scarf as she hummed under her breath, a melody without name, born from quiet contentment. Inside the house, Hassan stirred lentils on the stove. It had been a month since the wedding, and though the silence between them still lingered, it had changed shape. It no longer separated them. It wrapped around them like a shawl, familiar and warm. Zulekha stepped in with the eggs. 3 more hens have started laying. He nodded with a small smile. They are well fed. So am I, she replied, smirking faintly. They shared a glance. Not flirtation, something deeper. Recognition. 2 people who had been overlooked, now seeing each other clearly. Later that day, Hassan went to the market to trade grain. As he passed the tea shop near the station, a familiar voice called out behind him. Hassan! He turned. A man in an expensive coat and 2 shiny shoes approached, arrogance dripping from his posture. It was Faisal. Hassan's jaw tightened. Did you marry that woman from the station? Faisal asked with a mocking grin. The one I left. Hassan's silence was answer enough. I mean, she's got the weight of 2 brides, Faisal sneered. You really settled, huh? The old Hassan might have walked away, but something in him, something quiet and solid, had changed. I didn't settle, Hassan said, calm but firm. I stood up. Faisal scoffed. You call that standing up? Hassan looked him in the eye. You had a chance to choose kindness. You chose cowardice. I chose her. Faisal faltered, not expecting a response that didn't carry shame. She's lucky, Faisal muttered and turned away. No, Hassan corrected. I am. Back at the farm, Zulekha was sweeping the courtyard when she heard the crunch of Hassan's footsteps. She looked up, saw the tension on his face. "Someone from your past," he said gently. "Faisal." She stiffened, her hands gripping the broom handle. "I told him I chose you," Hassan added. She met his eyes. "You did?" "I did." A long silence passed. "I'm afraid sometimes," she confessed, "that you'll wake up one day and see what he saw. That you'll remember I wasn't your first choice." "You weren't," Hassan said honestly. "But you're my first miracle since." She looked away, blinking back tears. "You don't have to love me right away," she said. "But promise you won't pretend." "I don't pretend," he replied. "I grow." That evening, Nani brought over mango pickle and sat with them on the porch. "You too," she said, sipping tea. "I like a forgotten song being hummed again." Zulekha laughed. Hassan chuckled softly. It was the first time either had laughed since their wedding. Later, as dusk settled, Zulekha walked through the field with Hassan. Fireflies blinked along the edges, like sparks rising from the ground. "You never told me what your wife was like," Zulekha said. Hassan took a breath. Amina was gentle, light in every way, but she was also fragile. The wind could bruise her. "You're different. Stronger." "Yes," he said, "like the earth, weathered, firm, forgiving." They reached the boundary of the field, where the world seemed to pause. Hassan turned toward her, gently brushing a curl from her forehead. "Would you mind," he asked, "if I held your hand?" She nodded once, and their fingers met, awkward at first, then steady. From afar, a child's voice shouted, "Hassan Chacha is smiling again." In that small, unremarkable moment, everything changed. Hassan did not speak. He simply looked at the woman beside him, abandoned once, unloved by others, but now fully seen. And in the reflection of her eyes, he found something he hadn't known he still had: hope.